Okay, the second part is something we can run through quickly because we've already looked at the key sectors where AI can help. But again, this is a context where what key capabilities AI brings to help the governments in climate action. So these are several key themes for how AI can accelerate climate action or help governments accelerate climate action. Of course, distilling raw data into actionable information. We already talked about this. Improving predictions, we have talked about this. Here the government can facilitate, government runs in most countries, major national prediction centers are run by the governments because they need satellites, data networks, and personnel, computing resources to make this happen. And private entities use government products to produce derived products made local, downscale, etc. So this government infrastructure is needed, and that's where AI can begin to be integrated. Optimizing complex systems, so AI can be used to reduce the energy needed to heat and cool a building or to optimize freight transport schedules. Is this government job? No, but government policies and strategies can regulate these use of AI for optimizing these things without increasing AI's impact on climate. Accelerating scientific modeling and discovery. We already talked many examples of climate and weather models, but also developing applications of forecasts for different sectors like agriculture, water, energy, health, etc. Right? So here is an example of buildings and cities on how AI. So this is selected AI for climate applications within buildings and cities. You can use it for new infrastructure which can be unsustainable, new infrastructure that can be sustainable. So you have color coded an existing infrastructure which may be unsustainable but can be retrofitted, but then you will need cost benefit analysis for that. Okay, so smart buildings transfer knowledge is imagined in terms of modeling energy across buildings. So this looks like let's say energy center or residence or commercial building or whatever, and you have modeling buildings energy itself, which can then be optimized for HVAC use and efficient sensing for smart city IoT. You can run the entire city connected with IoT, and then you optimize energy, water, and other resources so that you are using AI efficiently for operating it as a system, right? So targeted retrofit strategies for unsustainable buildings, and you want to phase out internal combustion engines, fossil fuel use, etc. And building infrastructure data can be mapped with satellites, so 3D building models to, this is an old unsustainable building, but you don't want to build new infrastructure that is still unsustainable. So how do you then do low carbon infrastructure? You want to optimize HVAC, everything, and you want to also coordinate between sectors. So it's a very schematic kind of thing, but you get the idea. So electricity systems, AI can enable significant emissions reductions in electricity systems across a wide range of applications. Buildings and cities, we already looked at here. So you can increase the efficiency of energy use in buildings and urban environments. You can also reduce cities with waste management to reduce methane emissions associated with landfill and wastewater, and green infrastructure to reduce urban heat islands, provide people spaces for gathering. Mental well-being is helped by that. So we've talked about adaptation for urban centers, where we discussed many of these ideas, but not with an AI in mind. Here we are AI tool in mind. Here we are focusing on AI for these applications. Transportation, of course, AI can help decarbonize transportations in many ways that we have discussed already. I won't go into details, but just to read, AI is an integral part of autonomous vehicle technologies, though the climate impacts here are uncertain. We've talked about that before, because autonomous vehicles are just moving clouds They got all kinds of gadgets to collect data, do local computations, and then take decisions on the fly. So this can become very heavy on emissions unless you have autonomous buses and pooling passengers and integrating the ride-hailing services, etc., into the public transportation to close maybe the last mile gaps. If there is a metro and you want to go take a car to the metro, is there a way to pool riders from the local neighborhood to reduce again the carbon footprints? Heavy industry and manufacturing, of course, we talked about cement and steel, but there are many others as well, and aluminum comes in, so these can be better done in terms of AI. Also, mining and processing virgin material can come under this. We looked at heavy industries already in the previous report on AI for climate mitigation, right? Farms and forests, again a schematic. So this is for agriculture, forestry, and other land use, which CMIP reports call as AFOLU, AFOLU, okay? Other land use, agriculture, forestry, and other land use. Remote sensing has a big role to play on monitoring emissions, precision agriculture, so farmland, peatland, you want to monitor them for emissions, but also protect them and see what's running into them or what is degrading them, estimating carbon stocks in forests and so on, automating afforestation, managing forest fires, reducing deforestation. So AI with stakeholder engagement, co-producing AI tools for treating the entire ecosystem as one and reducing losses, afforesting, reducing emissions, etc. Agriculture, of course, we have talked about not only about reducing its emissions, but optimal use of water, fertilizer, reducing water pollution, air pollution, as well as emissions, and making sure crop yields are not getting lost. And of course, AI is helping in GMOs as well. Forestry and other land use. Climate science, we talked about predictions, but also improving models with cloud parameterizations or modeling clouds and so on and so forth. Okay, so of course, you can also then get into AI for societal adaptation. So AI can aid in societal resilience to the effects of climate change. AI can pinpoint vulnerable locations and target infrastructure improvements where they are most needed. So this is a government use of AI to manage society's infrastructure, reducing vulnerabilities and hence exposures and risks, of course. So AI can inform relief efforts by improving maps and identifying at-risk individuals, as well as a part of the early warning for adaptation. So early warnings are improved by AI, and application of AI to manage disasters are also improved by AI. Ecosystems and biodiversity, of course, mapping, tracking, monitoring, evaluation. Climate policy. Many of the above applications of AI can be valuable for policy making by providing data useful in informing policy decisions. However, AI can also inform climate policy in other ways. AI can be incorporated in models used for assessing policy options, and can also be used in causal inferences to help assess the efficacy of policies that are being executed. So you can have this digital twin approach working through the climate system, climate impacts and climate policies, and implement the impacts of policies back on the system. Markets and finance, of course, AI can be used within markets and finance in ways aligned with climate action. So regulations must make sure that AI is used for reducing exposures of the financial system to risks and avoiding moral hazards, like ensuring people to settle in more climate vulnerable regions, or regions that are exposed to extreme events like coastal regions or cyclone tracks, sea level rise, etc. Right? So AI can also inform insurance and financial policy by quantifying climate associated risks and parsing climate related corporate disclosures. Insurance industry is way ahead of it. They want to maximize maximize benefits, profits, as well as reduce exposure, they know payouts, right? So they want to, governments may not be able to force people to move away from high risk regions, but lack of risk underwriting by insurance companies may force people to do that. So there are many places like Florida, for example, where insurance companies were blindly giving insurance coverage for people going into the paths of cyclones and sea level rise, but now they are getting smarter and smarter because their payouts in damages is increasing. So that's a good position, that's a good place where government can have leverage on how to use AI to make sure insurance companies can make profit but not put people into more and more risky places. So what is responsible AI in the context of climate change? We have already talked about this. It has to be equitable, just, and reduce AI's impact on climate change, and of course be finding solutions that help everybody, governments, private sector, public, societies, the most vulnerable. So that's equitable and just, but usually you think of only people when you talk about it, but companies also have to survive and make profits, right? So while AI has great potential to enable climate mitigation and adaptation strategies, it also comes with many pitfalls and risks that are inextricably connected with the opportunities. This leads to the need for the responsible development, deployment, and governance of AI in the context of climate change. So government has a lot of important responsibilities here. The considerations detailed below are vitally important to ensuring ethical research and deployment. They are relevant throughout the rest of the report and should be a central consideration for any policies adopted on this topic. So the recommendations for responsible AI in the context of climate change for government action: establish and implement standards and or best practices guiding the responsible practice and participatory design of AI in climate contexts. So that has to apply across all the sectors and public and private organizations. So this should include locally focused initiatives, as some aspects may vary or need tailoring to different geographical and cultural contexts. So you will need multi-layered policies and regulations, so that national level you have some issues, but they have to be location specific in many other issues, like adaptation is very local, right? Include participation stipends for experts and civil society participants within the budgets of governmental task forces and committees aimed at shaping AI for climate initiatives, such as those detailed throughout the rest of this report. So you want budget allocated in a sustained fashion for participation of experts and civil society participants in shaping AI climate initiatives, so you don't diverge and AI doesn't become maladaptation. Okay, incorporate climate and environmental assessment and reporting into AI regulation and strategies more broadly to better align the use of AI with global climate pathways and environmental goals. So you want to keep sustainable development goals, you want to keep net zero pathways, sustainable development pathways, resilience building, and all these, and AI should work to help all of those and reduce its own impact. So notably, many uses of AI, even those that are not explicitly labeled as climate relevant, have the potential for significant influence on climate mitigation or adaptation. The examples are targeted advertising systems that affect global patterns of consumption. So here advertisers have learned very well to use data gleaned from people's buying habits, TV watching habits, internet search habits to tailor selling products to them. But can we then reverse it and say we will try to reduce your emissions by using the same techniques? Because right now it's all about selling products. I'm always amused, for example, something like New York Times is so progressive on reporting on all aspects of climate change, and yet every time I open the page it shows me advertisements to buy things. So their profit depends on selling advertisements, and they are still trying to talk about climate change and its importance and urgency and so on. So responsible AI involves shaping the overall use of AI technologies in a way that is cognizant of their impacts on climate change mitigation, adaptation, and climate and environmental equity. Okay, we'll next talk about data and digital infrastructure. So we'll do that in the next podcast because this is only 15 minutes long. So let's go one more section then. Yeah, I do these near real-time adjustments just to keep the podcast reasonably short or long depending on how you look at it. So next up is data and digital infrastructure in terms of recommendations. Establish data task forces in climate critical sectors. So we already talked about energy, transport, land use, industry, buildings, climate science, and health is important, water, agriculture, etc. as well. Facilitate data creation and open data source standards where appropriate in climate critical industries as well, so that you can manage the system. If you have a smart city and if you haven't managed to connect all these sectors into one database, so that you can actually manage all the sectors together for optimal organization of transportation with buildings, new infrastructure, old infrastructure, retrofitting, energy supply, water supply, dealing with extreme events and heat and so on, then you will fail. So key sectors can and should be coordinated in this sense in terms of data creation and data standards, right? Rapidly create data portals to increase data access and sharing. It's very useful, but there are a lot of barriers to this which have to be dealt with when it comes to data sharing, not only across country borders, but even within the country. Water data is very valuable, so states don't share them, and there are many conflicts as well. GPAI members, Global Partnership for AI members, countries and others could collaborate to jointly fund the development of an international catalog for open source climate relevant data, models and software. Good idea. And it will go forward in terms of negotiations, and these negotiations are always difficult, but hopefully we will make progress. Oversee the development of data collection systems and digital twins for energy, transport and other physical infrastructure. So here simulation optimization environments such as such systems can inform decision makers regarding the optimal deployment of physical infrastructure in a low risk way, thereby reducing costs and improving future system designs. So basically digital twins will be like, you know, CAD CAMs of the olden days, where you have computer aided design and computer aided machine, where you would make a 3D model on the computer, look at many things in terms of its functioning, functionality, efficiency, etc., and then go to the manufacturing floor. And same thing can be done for climate action as well. Imagine a digital twin of a complete city where you are monitoring everything and you are making experiments in the computer first about new roads, new infrastructures, new green roof policies, whatever, and then making sure it all works as intended, and then you go to the ground. So it's a fantastic idea. There are not too many fully functional scaled up models yet, but everybody is talking about it, everybody is trying it, so it will happen soon. Okay, governments should also work with private sector cloud compute providers to support cloud compute resources that are affordable for academic researchers, civil society and small and medium enterprises. So obviously we have AI being used already in every watch, every software you find. Anything you do now has some AI in it, built in, but nobody is really tracking the energy costs and so on, and we don't always track what data is being gathered and what's being done with it. All these will need regulations and coordinations and privacy protections, etc., which is government task, and AI itself can be used to do that as well. Okay, so next item is research and innovation funding, and we'll look at the recommendations when we come back. Okay, so I don't know how many more podcasts we will have, but it's okay, we'll do it at this pace. And good thing is the report is available online. Any specific item or the whole report interests you, you can go back and read. I just provide enough of an introduction to start you off, or if you're not an expert, you just get the idea of what is being thought of in AI for governments in the context of climate action. Okay, see you in the next podcast.